Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Nick Alex, and you're probably wondering why my camera is here. Well, today, at least for the first part of the video, we're going to be talking about the two selectors over there, the 6-star X-Men selector and the 6-star character selector that we got from the first day of the 7-year anniversary rewards, and I'm going to be giving you my advice on who you should choose, and then we're going to be doing a pre-update look at Green Goblin with his base look and also with his Iron Patriot look to see just how much of an upgrade this dude needs to finally make it into the meta, because he basically hasn't been meta for the 6 years he's been in the game. So it's a long time coming for Norman Osborn. Now, back to the selectors here. We're starting off with the X Gene selector, and this is why I moved my camera so you guys can see all 12 of the possible character choices right away. And this is it. It's just these 12 characters from Kid Omega down to Beast, Storm, and Cyclops. And Kid Omega being the selected one, the recommended one, is a great choice. That's my #1 pick if you do not have Kid Omega, or if you have him 6 stars but you don't have him tier 2, because if you select him at 6 stars and you already have him, you'll be getting 256 biometrics, which you can then use to upgrade his gears, easily getting him to tier 2. After Kid Omega, I think there's a long drop off in terms of value, especially at tier 2. Now the thing is, the next couple of characters, Bishop, Warpath, Domino, Phantom X, Angel, they can't even go past tier 2, and they're much worse characters than Kid Omega is. Nightcrawler and X-23 can be transcended, but they're really not as good. Oh, also Beast is sort of in the crapper here. But what I want to point out is, at the bottom, you have 3 characters here, Rogue, Cyclops, and Storm. And while neither Storm nor Cyclops does much for you, tier 3 for your roster, Rogue is going to do quite a lot for you. Now, you can farm these characters for free. It's 10 bios a day. But that's really slow. That's 10 bios a day. It's going to take you a month to farm up the bios to get these characters from 0 stars to tier 2. So my other advice is, if you really if you're joining the game for the first time, or if you're a returning player, and Kid Omega could help you specifically for stage 34 of Shadowland, which is great. But also, if you're dying to tier 3 Rogue and you're going to buy her new uniform, then I would say pick one of these characters, because it saves you a ton of time farming. And like I mentioned in my other video for Mega Tier 2 tickets, I'm starting to shift my advice to not only include the most efficient advice, which I think is Kid Omega, but also the advice that's going to give you the most fun while not being the most efficient, because fun is really underrated in a mobile game, and it actually should be the thing that we're focusing the most on, not the meta, not damage, but actually fun. And so if you're going to have the most fun playing with, Anne-Marie over here, then do it. Right? Then do it. The same advice is not true for Beast, because he's much, much worse than Rogue, and the same advice is not exactly true for Storm or Cyclops, because they're also quite a bit worse than Rogue. But still, I would say they're useful, and they're serviceable. They're definitely serviceable characters. And I guess the same would also then go on, again, a lower level for X-23 and not Nightcrawler. Never mind. I cannot recommend Nightcrawler at all. But yeah. Beyond that, honestly, Phantom X and Domino are in the same boat as Rogue, where they're very slow to farm. They just can't go past tier 2, so you're really not going to get too much value out of them. And then probably Bishop is the best of the remaining 3, the Angel, Warpath, Bishop ones. But you can farm them quite easily from Dimension missions and from the Dimension token shop, so I do not recommend them at all for a 6-star selector, because they're just super duper easy to get with those support tokens. As for the 6-star character selector, there's actually a lot of choices if you are a new player, or if you're a returning player who's missing a lot of the more recent additions. Green Goblin's not a bad choice at all if you don't have him, because we know he's getting a rework very soon, and if you're coming back to the game for him, for the rework for the No Way Home Part 2 stuff, and you don't have him, then you can get a jump start on that. But yeah, most recent tier 2s that are very, very good, like very, very good for tier 2s, Katie and Cersei. Excellent characters. Cersei's better than Katie because she can go transcended, but yeah, you should definitely pick up one of them if you don't have both of them. And then beyond that, honestly, the selector does a really good job of recommending really good characters. Scorpion and Scream, excellent villains for you to carry you in Shadowland, where you need villains early on. And then Scarlet Spider, also very, very good. Really nice combo support character. He can also do a lot of one-shotting himself for World Boss Ultimate, but he's a great combo support for Peter Parker Spider-Man and stuff like that. And then beyond that, I would not select Taskmaster, because I believe you get him for free from the Black Widow Legendary Battle at 6 stars when you first try it. But I think War Tiger and Shadow Shell are both good options for you if you're a new player. And then Dr. Voodoo is a really good support if you're a returning player. All defense down doesn't really get talked about anymore because of World Boss Legend and content where you can't use all defense down. But for those of you who still play World Boss Ultimate and need those all defense down teams, or you need those strikers or whatever, you know, to set up for one shots and stuff like that, Dr. Voodoo is an excellent lead for that. So those are my picks for both of the selectors. And then of course, if you have all those characters, then just choose a character that you think is going to be getting a uniform soon, because that's going to give you an extra 256 bios. So there we go. Now we're on to Green Goblin. And this dude has never been good, man. Really never. He's gotten 2 really cool uniforms that have completely transformed the way the character looks. He bulks up and then he irons up. And either way, he's just never been good. Now, we do have a fire damage 180 proc on him. If you're wondering, the fire damage is actually from this uniform. And if you actually look back on the character's history, he's such a mess, dude. The devs just, I don't know who they assigned for Green Goblin, but they were just like, you know, be creative, but don't make him strong, right? Be creative, but make him weak as hell, because this uniform is so cool. It transforms him to fire damage, and it transforms all of his skills, takes him off the glider. He plays completely differently. And of course, his base uniform, Green Goblin, all that poison, right? So you got either poison or fire damage, which is so cool. And then of course, when he turns into Tony, he loses all of that, and he just does energy damage. So it makes all of those obelisks with fire damage and poison damage completely useless, which, okay, that's fine. I'll cry about that later in the closet. But beyond that, he's really just a support for Moonstone. And I was actually going to feature his value as a support for Moonstone in my comparison, but it was actually very similar to Ebony Maw, who is not a bad comparison. I was doing comparisons between him and Ebony Maw with Moonstone, tracking their damage. But basically what I found is that he's at least as good. He's probably a little bit better, but he's at least as good as Ebony Maw's leadership for Moonstone. And that will actually then completely eclipse Ebony Maw in stuff like Mephisto, where the boss is not universal. When the boss is universal, Ebony Maw is probably close to as good as Green Goblin will be for Moonstone specifically. But when you don't have a universal enemy, then the big bulk, you can actually just almost one-shot just using his lead. That's crazy. Oh, and then the team-up skill uses the 5th skill, which is great. So then you could just do co-op 3. So Green Goblin's actually a really good support for Moonstone. And I know it's weird to say, hey, pre-update, Green Goblin's best value is Moonstone, but honestly it is. It is, because he's giving her 60% attack. He's got the team up here that gives her max HP and all defense. And then you also have the 40% increased damage to villains and heroes, which basically just sets her up to be able to do any piece of content. You don't have to worry about the enemies being universal or whatever. And that's really the thing with villains. They don't have a lot of leaderships, and they don't have a lot of supports. There's Taskmaster, there's Proxima, there's Mystique, there's Ebony Maw. And 2 of those characters that I named, Ebony and Proxima, are super expensive. So having a regular cost, whether he's tier 3 or transcended, like we don't know what it's going to be, but having a regular cost upgrade here, again, it's just for Moonstone, it's not for all villains, so it hurts a little bit more. But Moonstone is one of the most popular villains in the game, and she's very strong, and a lot of players already have her as a character unlocked, and if they don't, they probably will after this. So I thought that was a fair thing to point out, and something that's gonna, you know, increase his value from the get-go, even if you're not going to give him a good build for himself. However, let's see what he can do on his own. His current rotation with this uniform, he's gonna do 3 with a delayed cancel into 4 into a rapid cancel on 5. So there's a slight delay on 3, and then no delay at all going from 4 to 5. And then you just land on 5. You need to wait for the 3 to show that little red sign on the enemy's chest. It's kind of hard to see, to be honest, but man, he's got a really cool 5th skill. I remember when this came out, we were disappointed with the damage. Just to give you guys a little history recap from 2020, or yeah, it was the end of 2020, I believe. People were disappointed with the damage, but really happy with the support capabilities and with the aesthetic, because man, that's so cool. It makes for a really cool thumbnail. He doesn't have any healing, so as you can see, my HP bar just keeps dropping down. Oh, and I got guard broken. Awesome. So yeah, not very good, right? Well, let's see how much worse it gets when we actually try to use his base look. His base look, which is still energy, right? He's still energy attack. He's still an energy attacker. but it's going to be doing poison damage of his energy attack. Getting back on the glider is probably the worst idea for Norman here. I actually have no idea. I think he has an iframe on 5 and then an iframe on 3. As you guys can see, this is an old character. Oh, he has a 4 skill with the, yeah, okay. As you can see, this is what old characters look like, and there's like, you can count. You can literally count with your eyes the number of hits, and you can see how bad it is. No all defense down, no, like literally no buffs. He literally has nothing on his skills. We used to call them like white skills because they were just blank or sort of vanilla skills. But yeah, his damage is absolutely pitiful. This is a 2015 character, ladies and gentlemen. So you're looking at 7 years of upgrades in Marvel Future Fighter and what that looks like. He's got iframes, and that's literally it. That's literally all this character has is iframes. And you know what? That was really good in 2015. That was honestly good enough, right? To have AoE and have iframes was good enough. Not anymore. Fun fact for those of you who are, have stopped laughing long enough to hear what I'm saying, you actually could one-shot certain bosses back in the day with Green Goblin's 5th skill. When he first came out, this is really funny. It's actually not that funny, but when he first came out, for some reason his 5th skill did, I don't know, it was glitched, and it did like a silly amount of hits. And at the time, and again, bosses have gotten way harder now compared to where they were. You know what's funny? He survived longer than Iron Patriot. That's the funny part. I think he has guaranteed dodge. Yeah, he has 30%. He should still have the guaranteed dodge. Wow, that's pretty funny. That he did absolutely garbage damage, like beyond garbage tier damage. But he actually survived longer than Iron Patriot. Did he lose the? Yeah, you know what it is? He lost the guaranteed dodge. That's what it is. Oh my god, that's so sad. He's actually worse. He's actually worse defensively than the base look, because the base look has 30% guaranteed dodge. Wow. This is an unscripted reaction. I didn't even realize that. They made him worse defensively. Ah, man, that's a 2020 mistake on a 2015 character. Yikes. But anywho, if you go back, I don't know if there's videos of this anymore, but co-op used to be a lot harder than it is now. And we had something called Villain Siege. And you could actually use Green Goblin's classic uniform when he got his 5th skill, because back in the day, characters were released with only 4 skills. I know. And then they would update the character and add their 5th skill. It was sort of like how they add the tier 3 now, except there was no stat bump, and you would just automatically get the 5th skill. You wouldn't have to like upgrade the character more to unlock the 5th skill. You would just have to level it up from level 1. But when he got his aerial charge 5th skill, they did something wrong. I don't know if they added a 1 or added a 0, but the damage on it was insane, and you could one-shot the Villain Siege boss. You could one-shot co-op with him. And at the time, that was very difficult. Back then, co-op would take like 30 seconds. Like, you'd actually have to beat down the boss, all 3 of you together, you and the 2 other people. Nowadays, it's like 1 tap. But at the time, back 5 years ago, he was one-tapping people with that. So who knows, man? Maybe the devs will feel some nostalgia, and they'll be like, let's bring back old one-shot Norman, old one-shot Green Goblin. Or maybe not. Or maybe they'll just shaft him again with the minus 30% guaranteed dodge. Why did they do that, dude? Like, they could have just added that. Like, they could have just added it as an extra line of text, right? It doesn't matter. That wouldn't have broken the character. Like, I feel like they really this was an afterthought for them. You know, the other thing too is they didn't even update the tier 2 passive. It says Oz formula, which is actually the tier 2 passive from when he took the Oz formula to become Ultimate Green Goblin. And you can see that it changes when you go back to the classic look. It goes back to Expert Glider. So yeah, there's actually a lot of quote-unquote lazy decision-making, or sort of like rushed decision-making. I don't want to call the devs lazy, but maybe rushed or thoughtless decision-making when it comes to Green Goblin. Hopefully, they're going to finally rectify that, because you know what? What gives me hope, despite all the negativity that I've just thrown at you, is this man right here. They finally made him good after years of shaft. So if they can do it for Spidey, they can do it for his arch nemesis, the Gobbler. So yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of that. Let me know who you chose from the X-Gene 6-star selector and the other 6-star selector that we talked about earlier. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.